So Brad, who are you with?
So I'm an independent consultant, but I'm working with a company called Indoor Reality. So it's a startup company out of Berkeley, California.
Wow.
And they have developed a 3D indoor mapping solution that is very applicable to commercial real estate. That's one of the reasons why we're exhibiting here this week. But there are a couple other vertical markets as well. But this is certainly one of the key ones
cool.
that we're looking to focus
Well, Brad,
on.
my first impulse question is, do you use robots?
We don't use robots, but you might think that we do.
Okay.
There's basically two platforms in terms of the hardware component. One is a backpack system that you wear, and when you walk around, you may look like a robot. Other people kind of refer to us as Ghostbusters.
Nice.
As well. But then there's also a handheld system, which is maybe less threatening to some folks.
Well, more portable, certainly more portable.
It is, yes.
So you can go directly to where you want to go and get that information now, instead of waiting for something that systematically evaluates.
Exactly. So the idea is that you would go out and, instead of being reactionary to problems in your building space, maybe a boiler has gone out, something like that, what we can do is go in and we can map that area, create a digital model, if you will, and then the customer can access that through our web portal. And you can do basic takeoff measurements. You can tag different assets. The information that you collect can then be ported out to, let's say, a facilities management type application.
So let me ask you this. So it seems like, let's use the boiler example again.
Yeah.
If I'm correct in assuming that I could go and I could visually map it out, so if I want to order a part from a boiler, I don't have to have the part number. I could look at that digital map and say, give me one of those.
Exactly. Depending on who has access to the site, it's all password protected and so forth. You can actually leave messages. So if you're an inspector and you're due to go in and inspect that boiler, you can go in, do so, and then go into the site, leave a note for maybe a maintenance technician. The maintenance technician can then pick that up, and first of all, they'll be able to visually see what that looks like.
So among other things, just visual record keeping, among other things, right?
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it, yes.
Yeah. Exactly. So you'd actually take a visual pictures of your assets. So for a facility manager, for instance, and they have a budget, all of a sudden they have money, they can look and see which one of their assets is in the worst shape and have a digital format to reinforce that.
Exactly, and so people in different offices, whether it's down the hallway or across the globe, people can log in and be looking at the exact same thing and have more intelligent conversations about what they want to do.
One of the things Kenny and I say, we come from the building automation side, is that there's typically like an integrator or a contractor will have really one person that really knows the stuff really, really well. Right. And one of the biggest challenges is, we don't have enough people they can do the work. It seems like with this, you could have your really good technician could be sitting back at like a headquarters, right? You could deploy other people out looking at the different assets, and they could sit there and walk them through it and troubleshoot it. Is that?
I think that's absolutely correct. I mean, there's a number of scenarios in which this could be deployed throughout an organization, and there's really no right or wrong answer.
Yeah. Sure, because it's like wearable technology. It's just like having the glasses, except you'd have a more a broader resource there, because you can see more and do more.
Sure. And in terms of use cases, you can broaden that out then. So we've been talking about maintenance and facilities management up to this point, but if you've got maybe a suite that's been vacant and you've got a tenant that wants to come in, you can quickly go on and, without having to go through the time and expense of a site visit, you can both go on there and you can measure in that space.
That's extraordinary. And I see a life safety thing, and I see almost a municipality or government, because there's so many facilities where they need to know the exact measurements and put them on file, so if there's ever an emergency there, they already have that on record, or they can be provided immediately.
Well, it can be used for, you mentioned emergency, but escape plans, things of that nature. A couple of the other business verticals that we look at is architecture. So taking maybe a historic building or structure, and you can go map that and then bring that into a CAD environment and then start building your reconstruction plans off of that data that's been captured.
And the reason why is so many times a building existing structure gets an addendum or has add-ons or and then that all of a sudden upsets the initial drawings. So now you can implement. It's an easy solution. But tell us, what is your favorite case study, project, or whatever that comes to mind that you could share and really take a deep dive and show us how?
Well, I guess maybe the one that comes immediately to mind, and you'll see this on our website as well, is this is more of a trial, but it was at the San Francisco airport in the United Lounge.
Cool.
And so they had just redone that, and so we went in and captured that information. So now that's available to not only the end user client, but also the contractor that's involved with it. So the term that we tend to use is as-built. So as you referred to, is you take the original design plan, and that's wonderful. But then you go to construction and nothing goes according to plan. So the idea is that you can go back in and quickly recapture the existing conditions as it was built, and then you can update the model that exists from the architect. So when you're all done with the project, you can then turn over the model to the owner, and now you have an up-to-date model of where everything's at.
Marvelous documentation, because I mean that seems to be some of the biggest problems, the biggest shortfalls is, and then also who's responsible. You know, so the electrician can say, "Hey, I did my job, document it, put it all in."
Well, that's
before the ceiling gets put up. You know?
Well, and you just think of all the use cases, kind of in parallel with that. So what about rebar before the concrete's poured?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
What about utilities that are in the wall before the sheetrock gets put up? And so this type of solution, this type of technology, is the kind of thing that you can afford to deploy literally on a daily basis. So, before the sheetrock goes up, have somebody walk through, and you walk at a regular pace, so it's not like you have to run or you have to slow walk it, but you can capture that data, and it's available to everyone.
Let's say we're going to almost use it at an accident scene, because it would give you not only the visual, but it would also give you what it gives you your linear dimensions and your 3D measurements. So you could measure skid marks from a tire or whatever.
And actually, that's a great point that you made up. Our technology, we tend to focus more on the indoor side of things, but there are technologies in use today that do that very thing.
So Brad, describe your sort of ideal customer. This is obviously just a marvelous technology. Is it architects? Is it owners? Is it?
Well, it's kind of this is a great question, because it's yes, yes, and yes. Because it can be something that is simple enough that an owner who probably has construction inspectors already using maybe a tape measure or a folding rule or some other, maybe just a camera on an iPhone. Something like that. We're not a big leap in complexity from that.
Is it a financial sale? In other words, are they looking at it going, yeah, it's less expensive to do this, why didn't everybody have one of these? Let me rephrase this. Why isn't everyone doing this?
Well, I guess everything comes down to finances at one point or another. One of the solutions, the backpack that I referred to, is in the area of $150,000. So that gets people's attention. But when you contrast that with the other technologies that they're perhaps using, then it's not a big stretch. The handheld is more in the $3,000 area, so that's a much easier chunk to bite off.
Well, it sounds like every airport, every municipality, every city should have one, because you never know it's technology that can be applied to most any application, and the sky's the limit.
Yeah, well, I like the way you think. We kind of think that way, but it has to be a right fit. For the some organizations aren't set up to collect that kind of data, so they outsource that to service providers. So back to your question, there are other folks that will buy this and do it as a service.
So before we wrap up, and this is fascinating, how do people get hold of you?
So a couple simple ways. Visit the website, www.indoorreality.com. You can also call us. We've got a lot of ongoing projects, so depending on how you've reached us, maybe at the show, give us a call or reach us through the internet.
Brad Burgess and Kenny and I wonder if we get one of those Darth Vader looking things for Halloween.
Sure. Come on by the booth. I've got a couple just for you guys.
Brad Burgess, man, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Fascinating stuff.